The second wedding of Mary Queen of Scots. In February 1565, a meeting between Mary Queen of Scots and Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, was arranged. The two were not unfamiliar with each other. Mary had encountered Darnley on a number of occasions in the past. During his youth, Darnley had visited the French court, where Mary had spent much of her early life. Their reunion took place at Wemyss Castle in East Wemyss, a somewhat secluded location, likely chosen to keep the gathering away from prying eyes of the court. It was clear that love and marriage were on the horizon. At 22, Mary was a tall, wealthy and influential figure, celebrated for her beauty. She was a sovereign of Scotland, the widowed Queen of France, and had ambitions for the English throne. Having been a widow for over 4 years, she was seeking both an heir and some romantic fulfillment. Darnley, then 19, was known for his vanity, ambition, arrogance, and libertine lifestyle. Yet he was also tall, elegant, and notably handsome, with a talent for playing the lute. Mary described him as the most handsome and well-proportioned tall man she had seen. Darnley had also caught the eye of Mary's cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, during his time at the English court. Crucially, he shared a direct lineage from King Henry VII of England, a heritage Mary also possessed. Their combined lineage solidified their Tudor ties, and their son James would ultimately ascend to the English throne. What started as a courtship at Wemyss quickly blossomed into a passionate romance. Mary even cared for Darnley during an illness, which was possibly syphilis. The couple tied the knot in Edinburgh a few months later, on the 29th of July 1565. Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, the son of the Earl of Lennox, was a noble lineage, with both Scottish and Tudor royal blood. Born in England in 1545, the same year that his family's Scottish lands were seized, he saw their restoration in 1564. In early 1565, Darnley travelled to Edinburgh, and at 19 he was tall, handsome, well-educated, sophisticated, and a devout Roman Catholic. He immediately made his presence known to Mary, Queen of Scots, who, as a fellow Catholic, was in search of both a husband and an heir. Mary, struck by his looks, described him as the lustiest and best-proportioned long man that she had seen. Her feelings for him soon grew into deep infatuation. On the 22nd of July 1565, the marriage banns were announced, and just days later, on the 28th of July, it was declared that Scotland would be ruled jointly by the King and Queen of Scots. The couple married the following day. Their wedding took place at 6 a.m. in the Chapel Royal of Holyrood Palace. The 22-year-old bride wore a black widow gown, while her 19-year-old groom dazzled in a jewel-encrusted outfit. He placed a diamond ring and 2 others on her finger before departing for the nuptial mass, a moment that hinted at the growing distance between them. Despite this, the celebrations were grand. Trumpets announced their union, followed by a lavish wedding feast with 16 courses of game, chicken and lamb. Music and dancing filled the palace, and gold and silver coins were thrown to the crowd outside. The festivities continued with feasts, masques and dancing for the next 3 nights. After a brief honeymoon, they returned to Holyrood. Though Darnley fulfilled his duties as a husband and Mary became pregnant by September, the marriage quickly soured. She realized he was self-absorbed, arrogant, and dangerously scheming, often collaborating with her Protestant enemies. Their son, James, was born in 1566, but by then Mary's infatuation had faded. She began an affair with the ruthless Earl of Bothwell, and by February 1567, Darnley and his valet were found murdered at Kirkhope Field in Edinburgh, their deaths the result of a gunpowder explosion in Darnley's chamber. The fallout from this failed marriage was profound. Their son, James, eventually ascended to the thrones of both Scotland and England as James VI and I. The marriage's demise also caused tension. Darnley's Catholicism alarmed Scotland's Protestant lords and raised concerns in Elizabeth I's court. His immature behaviour and insatiable ambition soon frustrated both Mary and those around her. The relationship grew increasingly strained, culminating in Darnley's involvement in the murder of Mary's secretary, David Riccio, in her chambers at Holyrood House. The turbulent relationship between Mary and Darnley unfolded across numerous historical sites, including several properties that are now managed by Historic Scotland. During the chase about raid in September 1565, Mary and Darnley spent a night at Hunting Tower Castle. This marked a rare moment of triumph for the royal couple as they jointly led an army against Protestant rebels. In June 1566, Mary gave birth to their only child, the future James VI and I, in Edinburgh Castle. However, Darnley was not present for the birth of his son. Later that year, in October 1566, Mary visited the wounded Earl of Bothwell at Hermitage Castle, likely on official matters. This visit would later be cited as evidence of an affair between the two, a relationship that would culminate in Mary's marriage to Bothwell. In November and December 1566, Mary visited the wounded Earl of Bothwell at Hermitage Castle. In November and December 1566, Mary moved to Craigmillar Castle to recover from a serious illness. It was during this time that her court began conspiring against Darnley. At Stirling Castle in December 1566, while grand celebrations were held for the baptism of Prince James, Darnley lingered in the background. Meanwhile, Bothwell was gifted a fine suit by Mary, further fueling rumours about their growing relationship. The conspiracy against Darnley, known as the Craigmillar Bond, was set into motion and came to a deadly climax on the night of February 9, 1567. While Mary attended the wedding of her servant, Darnley recovered from an illness, and he stayed at Provost House in Kirkhope Field, Edinburgh. At around 2 a.m., 2 barrels of gunpowder placed beneath Darnley's room exploded. It is unclear whether Darnley was removed from his bed before the explosion, or if he managed to stagger out of the ruined house. Regardless, he didn't get far. His body, along with that of his valet, was later found in a nearby orchard, both smothered to death. Once again, Mary found herself a widow. Darnley's murder set off a chain of events that would unravel her reign.